Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Stewartry Area Committee. I would let you know at this point that this area committee meeting will be live streamed on Teams and that a recording will be available online shortly after the finish of the meeting. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I will refer to them formally in using their title, for example, Councillor Smith, so that it's clear who are councillors who by the process of elimination are officers. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guide, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you are not addressing the meeting. Writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you're in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be taken by roll call. If any members has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting so we can keep track of whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly, taking their time speaking directly into the microphone and when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant paragraph and allow everyone to follow. Please focus on contributions in areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative recommendation. Similarly to the process now followed at full council when considering motions, amendments which are substantive in nature, I will call a recess where necessary so that I may seek governance advice on competency. This is good practice in governance terms and will also provide for governance to be able to collate and circulate the terms of said motion amendment to members in order that they have the opportunity to properly review it. I hope this process makes matters more effective and I seek member support in implementing this. We are joined this morning by our Ward Youth Councillor Stuart Walker. Welcome, Stuart. Item 1, Sedron apologies and Chair's approval of members' remote participation. Could I ask the Clerk, Claire Rogerson, for the Sedron apologies and which members are in the room and those linking by Microsoft Teams, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. We've got 9 members present this morning, 6 in the chamber, 3 on Teams, being Councillors Blake, Campbell and McFarlane. And as you've said, we've got Youth Councillor Stuart Walker present. So everybody here, no apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. 2, declaration of interests. Do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on definition? Statement of connection for transparency reasons. Members may wish to make a public statement. Declaration of interest. Members were now required to leave the meeting for that item. Item 3 is the Chair and Vice Chair appointments. Our first report follows the meeting of full council on the 16th of June 2025 that the appointment of area committee chairs and vice chairs would be determined by the relevant area committee. I'm therefore seeking proposals for the appointment of a chair and vice chair for this committee. I'll now ask Claire if she would lead on this section.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's really for the members of this committee following that full council meeting to determine firstly whether there's any changes required to the appointment of chair and thereafter the appointment of vice chair.
Good morning, members. Yes, I would like to nominate Councillor John Dennerley as chair and I would nominate Councillor McFarlane as vice chair, but I suppose in this instance we just start with nominating the chair. Is that right? Claire, thank you. So I would nominate John Dennerley to continue as chair. Thank you.
Councillor Stitt.
I'm happy to second Councillor Drysdale and Councillor Denley's chair.
Councillor Young.
I was also going to nominate Councillor John Dennerley, but Pauline's already beaten me to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire?
Yes, congratulations, Chair. Continuing in your role. To move to the appointment of Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I appreciate the work that's been done in the last few, I think it's a year now, almost, is it, Ingrid? Not sure of the timings, but it's been a great pleasure. Due to current commitments, I am unable to continue as Vice Chair, so I would like to nominate Councillor McFarlane as Vice Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to put forward a name? Pauline, Councillor Drysdale was proposed Vice Chair of Councillor McFarlane. Any others? Councillor Young?
I'm wondering if Councillor McFarlane is willing to accept the nomination of Vice Chair.
Councillor McFarlane, are you
Yeah,
willing to
thank you.
accept the nomination?
I appreciate the nomination. However, similar to Councillor Drysdale, a heavy workload and various commitments beyond the things that I do at the moment. It's not something I would be willing to take on at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane, for letting us know that. Can we go back to Councillor Young?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be happy to nominate Councillor Kim Lowe as Vice Chair.
Okay, Councillor Stitt.
Quite happy to second Councillor Young.
And Councillor Drysdale, did you have another nomination? Or?
Yes, I would support that. I appreciate you doing that. I think it's appropriate as SNP in administration, so I'd be delighted if Councillor Lowe was happy to do so. So thank you.
Okay, well, I'd like to welcome Councillor Kim Lowe then to take a seat as Vice Chair, and we're delighted with that nomination. And as Chair, if I could just put my record, my thanks and appreciation to all, and for the opportunity to serve as Chair. Especially, I'd like to put down a note of thanks to Councillor Drysdale for her excellent service as Vice Chair during the last 12 months. It's been a pleasure to work alongside her, and I look forward to working alongside Councillor Lowe. We can now move on to the remainder of the business in the meeting. Okay, we'll let everyone get seated. Good. If we're ready, we'll carry on then to item 4 of the agenda. Minutes of previous meetings held on the 21st of May 2025. Members are asked to note these minutes. Are members happy to note?
Happy to note.
Yep, Councillor Howie. Yep, thank you. Thank you. Everybody else in agreement? Item 5. Scottish Fire and Rescue Services, Stewartry Area Performance Report, 1st of April 2024 to the 21st of March 2025. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. The first report we are being asked to consider today is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Performance Report. There is a comprehensive information available for us to scrutinise, and as always, we commend the service for that. I would like to welcome to the meeting Chris Ross, Station Commander, Stewartry, to answer any questions on this report. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning, all.
And are there any questions? I open the floor to members to ask questions and comments. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. This will follow the meeting that we had at Nithsdale last week, when all the data for Abbey Ward has been included in this report. So there is data in this report that covers Nithsdale Ward, and it's not been separated out. It was discussed last week, and there was an action to enable it to be separated off. But we haven't got a clue if some of this data happened within DG2, the Dumfries end, and the same as the Nithsdale committee raised that our residents in Dumfries were not receiving the information they needed. So it's always been separated off. Just wondering why there's been a step back and just all come to the Stewartry for Abbey Ward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I spoke to my colleague Yes, regarding this, and it is a bit frustrating because it sort of inflates some of the stats that we receive here, particularly with areas of DGRI, which is part of the Abbey Ward, which is not really what I would class as Stewartry. But as you may have noticed, the report that you received today looks a little bit different than previous reports. This is due to a standardisation of the reporting process for the whole of Scotland. So what you've received before was a legacy Dumfries and Galloway report. This is the way we're moving to now. So we are in very early stages of trying to pick out data and understand it ourselves and how we can interpret what we're receiving. And I think, as far as I understand, it's more to do with a ward issue than so the information gets fed into the wards, which is then interpreted into the reports. It's beyond me. It's more of an IT issue and a reporting thing, but we're certainly going to feed it back, myself and my colleague from Nithsdale, we're going to feed it back to see if for future reports we can do something more on postcodes rather than wards. Does that make sense?
If that's the case, is there a possibility in doing that the data for Abbey Ward in this report can at some point be separated out at some point during the year, so we can just receive this report and Nithsdale can receive their area bit as well retrospectively?
Yeah, I would hope that to be the case. If we can get that in the future, then we can run a fresher report and reissue it. At the moment, we have limited licenses on the report. So this report is actually supplied to me, whereas previously I generated my own report from the program that we used to use, which we no longer have an overall license for. So I don't want to make promises that I can't deliver on, but we're certainly going to look into it. If you just if I can get that data from the people who collate this.
Okay, thank you. We have Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks very much for the report. I know you've explained how it's been compiled, but I just wanted to speak a bit about on page 27, 3.2, priority 3 is road safety and priority 7 is operational resilience and preparedness. While we're attending community council meetings at the moment, a lot of our own communities are preparing resilience plans ready for the weather we're experiencing at the moment, and we're going to experience increasing rainfall. So I note that often, particularly last week, we had another flood in the Hawk of Our. The pub was affected and we had to get sandbags out. So because the council vehicle wasn't able, it had to get a new part. So they reacted as quickly as they could and they were extremely effective. But I'm just wondering how much you as a fire service get involved in flooding, because I know in the past we've had to call you out for incidents in Castle Douglas and you've been fantastic and really, really helpful, but that's only as a last resort. So I'm just wondering if in some future reports we could have something on this as to how the fire brigade are involved with the council in pumping out drains and things when they're blocked, because we are seeing increasing amounts of that, which is a real challenge for everybody across the whole of Scotland and the UK at the moment. So it was just really to get your thoughts on that as a professional. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So, with regards to flooding, we do have a more of a slight responsibility there, but it's more of a life issue, life risk. At the moment, we don't have a statutory duty to pump out properties. In fact, we don't even have the equipment for that. Which would obviously require sort of low-level pumps, and so we no longer have those sort of resources. But we do train in what we call a flood response level, so it allows our crews to wade and effect rescues if people are still in properties that are being impacted by flooding. And then we, of course, at like Dumfries and Newton Stewart and other surrounding stations, we do have a higher level of water rescue capability, which is more for fast flowing waters. But there's a bit of a grey area when it comes to flooding and responsibility around pumping out people's properties who are not entirely at risk themselves.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you through yourself, Chair. I think that's really helpful for members to have that information, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. Councillor Young.
Hello. First of all, thank you for this very extensive and comprehensive report. I'm looking at pages 42 and 43, and it's very encouraging to see these trend lines going back over 4 years, and it's very welcoming that they tend to all show downwards trend in these various fires. I was surprised on page 43 that the sources of ignition was so high in terms of cooking appliances. We're sort of past the days, hopefully, of chip pan fires, etc. And I would have thought modern cooking appliances, which are used extensively now in kitchens, would be sort of safe from igniting, shall we say. A lot of people are using modern cooking appliances, no longer have open chips, etc. And I'm wondering if you could shed any light on which type of cooking appliances are causing these accidental ignitions. Thank you.
That's okay, Councillor. So what we, in terms of when we compile our reports following an incident, a cooking appliance will be quite a variety of bits of equipment in the kitchen. So if someone lets a pan boil dry, and it creates a little bit of smoke or something in the kitchen, it's still a cooking appliance. So we've certainly seen a massive reduction in open chip pans, and with more people moving towards air fryers or deep fat fryers. So those days are certainly, I wouldn't say completely gone, but we're definitely very, very few of those types of fires. But in terms of reporting, if a fire starts in the kitchen and a cooking appliance is used, that's what it's recorded at, and we don't really get into the granular detail of what particular type of appliance it was. We certainly welcome the move towards air fryers and deep fat fryers and away from these sort of open pans, which, as I say, we don't really get a great deal of nowadays.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. It's not normal to ask about line management of firefighters, but it is referenced in paragraph 3.12 of the covering report, and it's saying that line management has been centralised to Cambuslang. And, you know, as ward members, we've all got a vested interest in the effectiveness of our stations in rural areas, and the effectiveness of training and support through line management. I'm just wondering if you could perhaps clarify how can line management be effective when it's centralised over 110 miles away, to ensure that relationships are built up with station officers and retained firefighters. Thank you.
Good morning, Councillor. So that particular line management deals directly with the training function in Dumfries and Galloway, whereas we previously had a station commander for training locally, just due to, much like all public sector areas receiving financial constraints. They have now consolidated that position into Ayrshire as well, and with that management is now you're right enough, at Cambuslang. However, I'm pleased to say that I still carry a responsibility for training in Dumfries and Galloway, so I act as liaison for anything that happens in Dumfries and Galloway up to the line manager in Cambuslang. So you can rest assured the training for our on-call firefighters and our whole-time firefighters is not affected by this move. It's more of an overall managerial sort of position and not a direct hands-on approach. The training centre at Dumfries has not been affected. In fact, we have one more firefighter in that department now than we've ever had. So the actual practical side of training for our on-call stations and our whole time has not been affected by this.
Councillor Campbell, do you have anything further to ask?
Yes, please, Chair. Just a quick follow-up. Without getting into specifics, I know that sometimes there can be difficulty with relationships between retained firefighters and the local stations. So does that role in terms of line management sit with yourself, or is that also centralised to Cambuslang? Because I know there are times, and you'll know yourself, where individual retained firefighters do need a bit of support on sort of both professional and personal related issues. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, Councillor. So I am the station commander for the Stewartry stations, and we still have station commanders for all our district stations in Dumfries and Galloway. So I am that line manager that the watch commanders and crew commanders at all these stations can contact at any time of the day, really. I'm also a flexi duty officer. I'm with a number of my colleagues, so we do respond to incidents at all hours of the day, and we offer that sort of incident support for our firefighters who are dealing with incidents in the area. So reality is no, that the line management has not changed for our stations in any way, shape or form. I'm still very much based out of Dumfries, and I visit our on-call stations on a very regular basis, and still available on the end of a phone should they require it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yep, reassured, Councillor Campbell. Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to commend the format of the report. I do find it a lot easier to read. It's easier on the eye, and the information is all clearly a lot more easily digested. Thank you. Notwithstanding the comments of Councillor Lowe earlier, just want to ask you, Chris, in relation to the closure of Kirkcudbright Bridge. I know we've had a conversation previously when it was fully closed and the difficulties that was causing. So I'm just interested to know how it's affecting your performance in relation to attendance at incidents.
Thank you, Councillor. So initially, when it was fully closed for some time, my biggest concern was on-call firefighters who resided on the other side of the bridge and their ability to get to the station when their pagers went off. We had situations where the watch commander was having to put his bike in a van and get as far as he could and then pedal across, and all this has an impact on our response times. Obviously that's been resolved now, but in terms of mobilisation of the appliance, then there is going to be a delay time involved in that, getting to the mayor's side should there be an incident over there. So what we've done is we have increased the mobilisation, so we've added an extra appliance, most likely from Gatehouse, but they do it dynamically depending on availability to respond, just to make sure we're getting, because obviously it is going to take a couple of minutes longer to go the long way around, so we have to add in that an incident may have escalated slightly in that period of time, so it may require initial resources sooner. So that extra appliance will come from Gatehouse or Castle Douglas should be required, whereas before we might not have required 2 or 3 pumps. But I'm glad that we've got a partial opening of it now. recruitment is always an ongoing issue for myself, and we do have response times required for people who are interested in joining the fire service in Kukubri, and it was obviously having an impact on whether or not we could employ people. So I'm glad there is a sort of temporary resolution there.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor McFarlane, any further comment or question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thank Chris. Yeah, currently, as a council, we're going to be doing sort of impact on the businesses in the town in relation to the closure. Is there any way you could quantify the impact that this has had in relation to you, in relation to your response time and availability of resources and such like? And that's something that perhaps we could pull together and put it in with that, so we get a wider perspective in relation to the impact of the bridge. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Councillor. So we have, I did try and do a little bit of, quite a bit of investigation on the initial closure to try and see how it was affecting us on the number of incidents we would have affected, both through data, but also from the station themselves, anecdotally, how many times they go over that bridge. And currently it's about once or twice, well, it would have been once or twice a month. Obviously that's anecdotal. I could find out for sure what the actual numbers were. I could do that and provide you with them numbers.
Councillor McFarlane, are you satisfied with that?
Yes, thanks for that, Chris. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
As Chair, I have a question linked to Councillor McFarlane's point that he raised regarding the Kukubri Bridge. And I guess the overriding concern is just the flow of traffic over the bridge. Obviously, during the closure, since the closure, there's been queues up to the road. And so if there's a fire engine going through in the High Street area, how would you manage the response with the traffic and the flow management of things?
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So it would be very similar to how we manage any sort of congestion in traffic. It's really, we try and make ourselves as visible and take and adopt quite a visible presence on the road, and it's really down to the public to see us as far back as possible and try and make as much space to allow through. It's not something we can really quantify because it happens all over. Myself on the way here this morning at Springham, there's quite a bit of traffic there, and quite a long way back we could see blue lights of an ambulance there this morning, and it didn't take long for all of us to find a little bit of space just to let them through. So it just takes a little bit of awareness by the public to create space and allow appliances through as quickly and as safely as possible.
Thank you for that response. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Young?
Thank you for letting me back in, Chair. A very quick follow-up question. This excellent report concentrates mainly on dwelling fires. Now, during these very hot summer spells, we're aware of fires building on grasslands and out-of-control campfires. Are you involved in eliminating this type of fire?
Sorry, Councillor, just to confirm, when you say eliminating, do you mean extinguishing or?
Yes, extinguishing, putting it out.
Yes, yeah. We attend all sort of grass fires, wildfires, and anything that nature. Sorry, nature.
And is that an increasing part of your summer tasks?
It's absolutely increasing year on year. More so in a size of response. Some of them just due to dry weather and obviously climate change, that we're getting drier spells, and they are a significant drain on resources to extinguish over a few days. But it does seem to be an increasing trend, much like flooding is at the other side of the climate sort of based activities that we have.
Thank you.
Our Youth Councillor, Stuart Walker.
I was just a bit curious about page 49 of the report, which shows an increase in road accidents and incidents. How does that reflect on the recent focus on that from the fire service, or would you say that this is not yet to show the result of recent focus? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I always stress in these reports, the numbers in Dumfries and Galloway and Stewartry are very, very low. So an increase of one or two significant incidents can make it look like a huge upward trend when it's not necessary. As a service and as a community action team, we do engage quite heavily with things like Next Gen, who do vehicle safety for the youth, and quite a few road safety partnerships. But as we are with the nature of the roads in the area, with a lot of tourism and stuff, it's very, very difficult to target people who are travelling through the area. I know my colleagues up in Wigtonshire, they do activities around about the ferry terminals, around about the times of Northwest 500s and things. So we do targeted events to try and reduce road safety. But it's very difficult to capture people who are travelling through the area and just general public. We can target certain groups that we're dealing with and working with, but to target the wider community is very difficult.
Any further question, comment? No? Good. Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Yes, thank you. Just returning to the question on page 43, the high number of mainly the kitchen fires. Would that include, we've got something like over 4,000 people that have care call and telecare services, so if for some reason they can't get a response, the fire brigade attend, would that include anything to do with the kitchen from the telecare services?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So we do obviously respond to care call alarms. If the operator on the other side isn't satisfied or can't get a response, then we will always mobilise to something there. We're often mobilised to incidents in the kitchen which aren't necessarily fires but has activated an alarm. So that'll be reported it definitely gets reported, but it wouldn't be classed as a kitchen. We wouldn't class that as a kitchen fire. If for argument's sake, it was toast or something, it would be classed as cooking fumes, and it would be classed as an alarm activation rather than a standalone fire.
Okay, well, I think that's all the questions from members. Thank you for everyone's questions and contribution. We'll now move and ask members to scrutinise the performance report for Stewartry from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for the period 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025 as detailed in the appendix. Are members happy to agree the recommendation?
Happy to agree, Chair.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you. Chris, are you staying or are you leaving? Yeah? Well, can we thank you for your attendance this morning? We appreciate your report and for answering all the questions from members. Thank you again, Chris, for your time, and take care.
Thank you very much.
The next 4 reports are about our new approach to area committee performance monitoring. Members will recall that one of the recommendations from the review of area committees was to change how we do this. And so today we're starting the new arrangements. In each of the following 4 reports, one from each directorate, we are invited to select a small number of performance measures to have an in-depth look at the over of the coming year. Members will note that we should be selecting issues that have particular relevance to our area rather than region-wide issues, and so I would encourage you to think about the matters we have had particular interest in the people in wards 3, 4 and 5, and those marked which collect data on an area basis. We're aware that there are a lot of potential items, so if we could narrow them down to 6 or 7 items. I've asked Ingrid to help guide us along this path, so thank you, Ingrid, or Claire. Will guide us through that with the items that we select.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll keep, just to confirm, I'll keep track of the items that the members raise. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Claire. I think possibly, I don't know if I'm the only member here to be a little bit confused about the system that we're going ahead with here. Whilst I encourage all of these things to be reported on, if we choose 6 or 7, that's the number we've just been given today. We probably should have inquired about that earlier. Hands up, I didn't do that. Then does that mean, Claire, through yourself, Chair, does that mean that the others won't be reported on, or are we going to have specific reports for each region in Dumfries and Galloway? Because I would have thought that we used to get all of these figures should we request them on an FOI. So I probably think we need some clarity going forward. Does it mean by choosing 6 or 7 that the others get deleted off the system? I don't know if I'm the only member to feel that way, but I think we need some clarity on it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you for your question. Claire, would you be able to answer it?
No, my understanding is that these performance figures projects are all still getting collected. These are the ones that the area committee wish to look into in more detail.
Are there any other questions or comments on this matter? So if we move to item 6, and we'll focus on the Social Work Services Directorate Area Performance Reporting report by the Director of Social Work Services. The first report in this section is the Social Work Services Directorate Performance Report. I'd like to welcome to the meeting Charles Rocks, Head of Children, Families and Justice Services, and Rebecca Aldridge, Senior Operations Manager, Adult Social Work Services, to answer any questions on the report. I'll open up now for members to propose which of these actions or successors measures they would like to look into over the coming year. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair. I'm particularly interested in, on page 79, the review and model of new delivery for residential care, children's care homes. I think that's something, it's a very large cost burden on our social work budgets, and I would like to see a trend to show that we're coping with more and more, not coping with, allowing more and more of our children living ordinary lives within our region, within reach of their own families. But I'm surprised there's no measures of home care that I can see on this, but I may be wrong.
For information, we have Rebecca Aldridge online, who's able, are you able to respond to Councillor Young's question? Can I check if Rebecca, if you're able to hear the meeting? No, we don't seem to have Rebecca there. So could Councillor Young, could we hold on that question and move to Councillor Howie?
Thank you, Chair. The area I'm particularly interested in is the one identified at number 19, develop and maintain closer links with the social housing providers to ensure that people living with long-term health conditions and physical disabilities are allocated suitably adapted properties. This is an issue which we've came across on several occasions locally. We have an excellent new scheme at Spring Home, but very few of the properties incorporate the adaptations which are really required for disabled people to live in confidence. So this is an area I'm particularly interested in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Howie. We also have a question from Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have also ticked the two that my fellow councillors have ticked, and I would also add in on page 80.16, we are continuing to see delayed discharge and constantly finding out that people don't have their power of attorney in place, and nor do they have their guardianship set up, especially for the elderly, but also for young people, which causes continual delays getting people back into the system and being looked after by the home teams and the community nursing teams. So I would like to see that happening. However, I would like that to be changed with the authorisation of Rebecca Aldridge and Charles Rocks, because putting this information constantly on national websites does not actually help our elderly population. They don't look at websites, they can't find information online. There's currently a poster at the hospital, which you can see on the right-hand side when you leave, and we need a national campaign, and we need to have information in all the doctors' surgeries and optometrists, etc., post offices, to really push and try and help people with power of attorney and guardianship. So I would support point 16, but slightly change the wording if that was achievable and allowable with the confirmation of the Directorate. So that's one I would really endorse. Thank you, Chair. And the other two that have already been mentioned.
I'll hold both Councillor Howie and Councillor Drysdale's questions and hope that Rebecca Aldridge is there and at some point can answer them. We do have Charles Rocks, Head of Children, Families and Justice Services. Do we have either Charles or Rebecca there? If not, we'll move to Councillor McFarlane. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I do think Rebecca has now joined the meeting, but if you'll bear with me. Yeah, I would support the comments of my colleagues in relation to the ones that have already been flagged up. But in addition, I would think project number 6 on page 79, the quality assurance and most vulnerable children, is just something that I would like to see come to us. Also, number 13, the development and introduction of children to adult transition. I think it's an area where there's an opportunity for gaps in whereby we may have people sort of falling outside our system. And on the last one would be number 22 on page 80, which is care leavers and care experienced adults. So those would be the ones that I would like to have reported on to us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We have Rebecca Aldridge online. I think you were on a call, and so perhaps I could ask Councillor Young again. Could you repeat your question?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to have the project review, and it's number 2 on page 79, review and introduce a new model of delivery for residential children's houses. I would like to see a progress towards this. Dalhousie and Galloway managing and delivering expert provision for youngsters within their own region rather than sending them to private residential homes in central Scotland. I think would result in a much more stable environment for these youngsters, and also save the council considerable amounts of money. And the other point I wondered about, there doesn't seem to be any success measure for care at home. I would like to know how well we're delivering care at home, how many assessed packages where the recommendation is for care are actually going without carers because of a lack of staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Rebecca, are you able to answer those questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Young, for your questions. I am aware that a previous committee, the request regarding the residential placements for children was mentioned, and Charles did have some thoughts on that. So I would probably want to check in with Charles and come back on that one if that's okay, given that that's his area of expertise. In terms of the care packages, I think we do have that data available in terms of unmet need. Unmet need may not be necessarily be due to lack of staff, for example, but there may be other issues. Remote areas is one difficulty, and also specialist provision could be another. But we do have that data available. Thank you.
Councillor Young, do you have any comment?
No, that's fine. We look forward to receiving more information on these two topics. Thank you.
Can I check, Councillor Campbell, was your point related to that, or was it a separate question?
It's a separate question, Chair.
Okay, we'll hold that for a moment and go to Councillor Howie's question. Please, could you repeat that?
Thanks, Chair. Rebecca, it's regarding item 19, develop and maintain closer links with social housing providers to ensure that people living with long-term health conditions and physical disabilities are allocated suitably adapted properties. It's just a recognition of the demographics that we have, particularly in the Stewartry with an ageing population, and it's to ensure that the properties which are being provided by the social housing sector are suitably adapted for long-term residential use by people with disabilities. So I don't suppose it's just a question, it's just to ensure that these are matters which are considered when we're in discussion with social housing providers.
Thank you. Just to offer reassurances that absolutely is forms part of the discussions and indeed the planning for new builds and for accommodation that's given out to people at any particular stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Drysdale, could you repeat your question?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to firstly say, I would also endorse Councillor McFarlane's points that he made. So that's us probably at the top of mind of points that we're able to bring forward from the Social Work Department. Thank you, Rebecca, for the report. It was just to ask on 16, I would like to support the representation and participation in the national steering groups for power of attorney and guardianship. If we could add guardianship in, and also the regional support information being available on the national website, Rebecca. I just feel for our elderly population that's not always the most effective route, unfortunately. Can we continue to campaign to ensure that adverts are put up in hospitals, doctors' surgeries, opticians, post offices, etc., and hopefully share any national publications of advertising campaigns to help people set up powers of attorney, just so that this might help a little bit with the delayed discharges. So it was just to get your feedback on that. Thanks a lot.
Rebecca?
Many thanks, Councillor Drysdale. There are, I mean, you're more than aware of the challenges around about guardianship, and not all related to a lack of information. Some are related to a lack of legal support, and that the challenges in terms of actually getting legal support, particularly for private guardianships. However, there is a real focus on power of attorney and on guardianships at the moment for the very reasons that you've noted. I myself have a particular interest in this, and feel strongly that, as you pointed out, that we should be getting to people much earlier in their journey. So when people are first diagnosed, or indeed when somebody actually first notices that there's a deficit in somebody's ability to remember things, for example, that's when we need to be getting into speaking to people. So I am aware that, particularly within the Health and Social Care Partnership, obviously it's a delegated area, that there is a focus on this and ongoing work, but I can absolutely add any comments or requests to that for their consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca. Councillor Howie?
Thank you. Just following on from that discussion, one of the main issues which causes problems in getting powers of attorney is the requirement of the counter-signatory, being that from a doctor, which is perfectly reasonable, or from a solicitor. I fail to see what medical qualifications a solicitor has to determine somebody's competency under the Act. I would have thought somebody who had long-term knowledge of that individual, such as a social worker who had been working them for months, perhaps even years, was perhaps as equally competent to judge their capacity as a solicitor. And certainly the costs involved in getting a solicitor to sign them off is an issue. I have written to the Public Guardian of Scotland on this issue, but didn't get much of a positive response, I would say. So perhaps we do have a lobbying position now in the council, and this is an area that we should look at when, certainly around the table here, we have individuals who can countersign firearm certificates and the likes, but we wouldn't be competent to sign a power of attorney. So it's just perhaps your views on that, Rebecca, if you could give them, please.
Thank you. Absolutely, it's an extremely complex area for consideration in terms of actually signing such documents, because obviously this relates to people's independence and their rights to exercise choice, etc. So I do understand the challenges associated to that. I probably would agree with you that we need some flexibility in terms of who would be afforded the right, the privilege indeed, to be able to sign such documents. Currently, it does need to be a medical professional, which I think I agree that is right. Because the medical profession, are obviously non-biased and trained to do such things. However, as I say, I would agree that we need probably further discussion to ensure that we really exercise our thoughts on this one. But to build in some flexibility would be a good way forward. I would agree with that. Thank you.
I know that Councillor Campbell's hand is up, but can I just check if Councillor McFarlane's, if your point followed on at all with any of these questions, or if it was separate? Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, if I recollect correctly, as you started that you were asking for 6 or 7 points that we could have reported on this, and I just raised another couple of 3. I don't know if Rebecca was on the call at the time I did that. No, I see her shaking her head. So if I just quickly rattle through those, it was number 6 on page 79, developing quality assurance to ensure most vulnerable children, young people have support, etc. And then number 13 on page 80, which was about a development of introduction to child to adult transition. I feel this is an area where we have an opportunity to perhaps not continue that care, and people could perhaps fall through the system. So I think it's important that we have that connected up. And then lastly, number 22, which is about care leavers and care experienced adults being supported. So it's really just to sort of, if we could have reports on those and what sort of Rebecca's take on that might be.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. Thank you very much for repeating that. As you've noted, I was taking a call at that point. I would say that at this moment I am about to start working much closer with colleagues in children and families, moving away from the adult care sphere. So my understanding and knowledge such things will be, I imagine, the next time we meet, increasing rapidly. I think that I would have to defer to Charles in terms of the requests for the various reports. I do know that there are a number of reports, and we have a number of we have an inspection looming as well as a number of other things. But I'll speak to Avril Dickey, and I can certainly feed back in terms of the request for these reports. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Campbell, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. My questions, I've got two questions, I think, but they're procedural in nature, and I think are relevant to all the directorate reports that we have in front of us today. And it strikes me that there's a lot of data which is numerical, which can be reported to us, but when it comes to projects, how is that information going to be presented? I presume it's just going to be narrative updates on how projects are developing. And the other question relates to the 6 monthly reports that we'll receive. Can I please ask that these reports are presented to Area Committee as soon as possible after the conclusion of that 6-month period? I appreciate that there's a capacity issue here, but one of the big frustrations for area committees with update reports from directorates and indeed from fire and rescue and the police is that they're old. Sometimes they're over 6 months old, so therefore they're irrelevant. And the third question is, when it comes to projects and statistical data, will we be given the opportunity, say, on an annual basis, to review and change what information that we'd like to see presented to us? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take your last one first,
Okay.
just from my memory.
If you could respond to those.
Yeah, no, certainly. In terms of changing the information and what you might find of interest or what you think would be more appropriate, my understanding is that this is the current format is a test of change per se. So the opportunity will be given to look at, actually, are we providing the right information? Are the projects that you demonstrate an interest in, are they still relevant to yourselves? So yes is the answer to that. In terms of the projects and the numerical data, absolutely, there will be narrative that will go alongside those, because I think it's numerical data is only helpful to some extent, and it's the narrative really that gets in around about the richness of what's happening within particular projects. And apologies, can you please repeat your last question? Or that be your second one?
Oh, I don't know, Rebecca. The question was in relation to when we actually see the
yes,
reports. I don't know if that's necessarily an issue for you, Rebecca, because I think it cuts across all the directorates and outside organisations. But it's something that we've raised repeatedly in the past, and it can be quite frustrating when you're looking at data that's 6 months or even longer old, because you're thinking, well, what is the picture now? That's effectively what we're looking for. So as I say, I don't necessarily think it's a question specifically for you, but it's maybe more a procedural question for all the directorates.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, and I appreciate that. I think probably in terms of the out of date data, I can certainly go back and have some discussions with our colleagues that would deal with the data, and it might be that obviously we will try our very best to get more up to date data. But I think in terms of your request around about the narrative, hopefully it will be the narrative that provides a more up to date overview of what's actually happening within the projects, but we will certainly do our best to ensure that the data is as up to date as we can possibly get it. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell, any further questions or comments? Have we covered your 3 points?
Yeah, that's fine, but I may come back and answer similar questions in relation to the other reports that we have today.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. I have to completely agree on page 19 about the social housing providers. We did have quite a big discussion in our members' seminar for the Tackling Poverty subcommittee, and that's definitely a focus we want to work on, so that would tie in well. I'm just looking at success measures. We've just done projects so far, and I'm just wondering if we could include the 4 housing measures are together, AS 8, 9, 10 and 11. I would imagine the data for that's probably collected all probably in one place. So a focus for the Stewartry on our temporary people in temporary accommodation and tenancy, and to have a look at what's going on here and get some more detail on that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We do pull together the information and the data at the same time. We have, because obviously one has a knock-on effect on the other, so temporary accommodation will have a knock-on effect, or will be reflected within our section 5s, which is a leading into a tenancy, for example. So we will be able to get that information and provide a fuller picture to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from members? If not, we can move to recommendations to ask 1. Note the new arrangements for performance management by area committees as set out in paragraph 4.1. 2. Agree a small number of success measures and projects from the Social Work Services Directorate as referenced in paragraphs 4.5 to 4.6 and detailed in Appendix 1. And Claire will confirm at the end of the discussion which ones are to be selected. Claire.
Okay, thank you. Success measures then. I've got numbers 8, 9, 10 and 11. Projects, I've got 2, 6, 13, 16, 19 and 22. There was a comment about 16 being extended to include guardianship. Just I make the comment that my understanding that the wording in the appendices is the same wording that's from the agreed service plan, so that's why the wording is the way it is. But obviously we've had an assurance given from Rebecca on your query. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. 3. Note that performance monitoring reports on the selected 6 measures and projects will be reported to this area committee on a 6-monthly basis as set out in paragraph 4.8. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you, members. Agreed. Rebecca, thank you for your time this morning and for answering the questions from our members. Take care. We'll now move on to agenda item 7, Enabling and Customer Services Directorate, Area Performance Reporting, Report by Executive Director, Enabling and Customer Services. Our next report is the Enabling and Customer Service Director Performance Report. I would like to welcome to the meeting Lorna Meeham, Executive Director, Enabling and Customer Services, and Elaine Weir, Customer Services Development Officer, and to answer questions on this report. I'll open up now for members to propose which of these actions or success measures they would like to look into over the coming year. Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. Before we go into nominating anything, pages 88 and 89, numbers 32 and 49, are they not going to have final reports come to full council in December about taxi provision and the Chief Executive restructure evaluation impact? Because I think if they're coming to full council with an update, is there any need to have these in this agenda? Maybe I'm being a bit pernickety, but I thought we're getting finalised reports at the end of December on these 2 items.
I'm happy to answer that, Chair, through yourself. Thanks, Councillor Stitt. So the review taxi, provision is actually going to come to Enabling Customer Services Committee. I understand that it would be early in the new year. The committee discussed the timing of that earlier this year. So it will be coming through Service Committee or indeed full council, Councillor Stitt, if that's how members wish to handle it. And you're correct already on the forward plan, the Chief Exec's restructure evaluations there. It's just to probably reflect on earlier discussions. The measures and projects which are in the report reflect all of the activities that the Service Committee have approved. So they're there for completeness. But I do take the point that those are things that will be reported through Service Committee.
Thank you for that answer, Lorna. Any questions or comments from members? Okay, we'll now move to the recommendations. Members are asked to 1. Note that the new arrangements for performance management by area committees are set out in paragraph 4.1. So they haven't been selected? No. Yeah. Councillor Drysdale?
Thanks very much, Chair. I think with all due respect, we just might have moved on a little bit quickly, but I'm sorry about that, everyone. I think we probably didn't put our hands up or speak in time, so I can come in, or I see Councillor Campbell wants to speak. So do you want to go through him first, Chair, or myself?
Okay, Councillor Campbell, would you like to put your question forward?
Yes, please, and good morning, Lorna. My question is around the success measures and the projects, and as you'll know, as far as I can see, there's only 2 references to data that is area-based being available to us. I'm a bit concerned about the repetition of information being reported on through the parent committee, and you know, the relevance to the area committee if we don't have any data available. I'm just wondering what the approach will be in terms of that information, Lorna.
Thanks through yourself, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Campbell. You know, a number of our services are region-wide and don't necessarily have a particular area focus. But, you know, as in reflection, other area committees have pulled out the areas that are available to them in terms of measures, but have pulled out some of the project areas which will be reported at Service Committee, but we are able to break down some of the information at area level if it was of interest to members. So 2 of the areas that's been of a focus, and it may be of interest to this committee. One is around the depopulation challenge, the work that's currently ongoing, the projects there. And so both Stranraer and Wigtonshire and Nithsdale area committees have asked for a breakdown of the outcomes from those reports with specific information related to their area, which we will provide. And the other one, and Councillor Stitt's picked this up already, is the review of taxi provisions. So the decisions are made at service and council level, but there was an interest in receiving information broken down from those pieces of work so the area committees could have scrutiny of them. So there are areas where we would endeavour to provide tailored information to the area committee if it was interest to you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further question or comment? Councillor Drysdale?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks very much for the report, Lorna. Just a couple of points to make. Obviously, we are going to be put under the usual pressures with regards to budget setting next year. And I think I'm correct in saying, but please correct me if I'm wrong, that in point 4 and 5, new library members and percentage of library resources borrowed sort of links in with all the visits to the customer services centres, because the libraries tend to be incorporated with the customer centres, or is that just here in wards 3 and 4? So some clarity on that would be great, because we have obviously have a lot of empty buildings or half-used buildings, and that might be something that as members we need to look at. And then my next question was, to me it would be very important to look at 18 and 19 for members to be able to come and have some input with the budgets. We need to know the council's financial strategy and the council's capital strategy. So my question is, and it's probably one I don't have knowledge of and I probably should do we see that normally every year anyway before we budget set? Or is that something that we as members really do need to ask for a more in-depth look at? Because that would help us with guidance, because you obviously have the information, you know, and it would help us with our budget settings. So perhaps we need to look at 18 and 19 combined, but I would take your advice and other members' input on that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay,
Again, through
Lorna.
yourself. Thank you, through yourself, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Drysdale. I'll come back and ask Elaine maybe to comment on the customer service centres and library usage and the potential in some of that information. In terms of the revenue budget and the capital budget, those are decisions that are taken at full council through the budget process. I do know that there's a report to come to the full council in December, which will present information on the priority projects as well as the overall capital investment strategy, where members will be taking at least advice ahead of budget around potential for focus on prioritisation. It's well trailed in the public domain that the Kukubri Bridge is part of that, so obviously the area committee will have interest in that, but probably without passing this to colleagues, it might be in due course through economy and infrastructure. Members of this area committee would be particularly interested in receiving regular updates around that capital project. I don't think there's a particular role for the area committee as it stands just now in terms of the overall capital strategy, and members will want to take a view in that in terms of positions around the budget as well. But you know, in terms of the project delivery, if there's particular projects within the capital programmes that an area committee have interest in, you could understand, and it currently happens anyway, that there are updates to the area committee. So I'm not sure what benefit or what scrutiny, and the committee obviously would understand that the capital and revenue budgets are allocated cross council region wide, and it would be specific aspects of.
Thanks, Lorna. Thanks, Chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor Drysdale. In relation to the new library members, that figure relates only to people who've joined the library to borrow resources either online or to borrow physical books. In relation to the number of visits and usages of the integrated customer service centres, I can confirm that all of our customer service centres are integrated in the sense that they deliver more than simply library services. So that figure will look at anybody that's come into one of our customer service centres to access any of our services over and above simply libraries. So it might be somebody that's come in for a book a bug session, or to use a public access PC, or to make an inquiry about other council services. And so the new library members will give you a figure around the number of people, adults and children, who've actually joined the library in the last 12 months. The number of visits will give you an actual figure of people who are coming in physically to visit our customer service centres. I think I understood your question right. Have I answered what you were looking for?
Thanks.
Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much. Yes, you have, Elaine. That's really helpful. So to that end, I think both of my queries have been cleared, so we could leave them off. And I'll just come back in with your permission, Chair, and say, well, I definitely think we need to add number 10 to review the teaching staff allocations and curriculum models for secondary schools. So I don't know if other members are in agreement with that, but I would take that as one that we do need to take forward. Thanks.
Councillor Young.
Thank you. I was going to suggest number 10 as well, but I wondered why it was review staff allocations and curriculum models just for secondary schools. I think we have to include primary schools as well. I mean, there's a lot of work being done, especially at the lower end of primary, and what's the best way to engage youngsters coming to school. So I would endorse Councillor Drysdale's for project number 10. The other thing, if I may, Chair, there's a lot of emphasis looking at page 89, numbers 42,
43, 44 on the digital internet experiences. So many of our constituents don't use the internet, and I would like that, I'm sure it's somewhere, a communication strategy number 44 to check how efficient our communication with our constituents is in Dumfries and Galway. There's an over-reliance by a lot of people, including myself, probably, that everybody uses the internet nowadays, and that's certainly not the case. And we really, as a council, need to be able to communicate with everybody, not just through the internet. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Chair,
Young,
if I could.
Lorna, or
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Young. I'm just looking at that item that's on the appendix, and I think that's a transposition from probably education services potentially, and I need to investigate that. I think if we take it in a minute, but I'll clarify that with the clerk, that wouldn't be something that the customer digital team would be leading on. That would be a matter for education with maybe support from finance and HR, but I'm not clear why it's found itself into this paper. So my apologies for that, but I will clarify that for you, Councillor Young, and the rest of the committee.
is that satisfactory? Thank you, Lorna, for that clarification. And we have Councillor McFarlane with the point.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Really reinforce I support all the comments that have gone beforehand. I mean, I think Councillor Campbell flagged the issue about the area-based data, and I think there are only two items on there, number 7 and number 8. And I think Councillor Drysdale touched on the customer service centres, and I do think that if that information is available to us, that we should access that. I think the customer services centres do a sterling job, and they're quite key to the area. So it'd be really important that we see that their use is maximised as much as possible. And that actually does tap into number 44 on page 89, which is about the communication strategy, which I think that many people don't actually know the access to it. Excuse me. So I do think that we should do that. Number 25 on page 88, it talks about research into current depopulation challenges, and that links in, I think, with the issues that we're having in relation to education in the Glen Kens. And I think that it also links into planning. I saw the other day that there was something that went to a local review body that was rejected for Balmaclellan, and that to me is a travesty, because we really do need to try and populate these small villages in the Glen Kens. So I think that we really need a more cohesive and a more joined up approach to how we're doing business. So the communication strategy linking into customer services and looking at the depopulation challenge. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. Lorna, Elaine, any comments?
Thank you, Chair. On the depopulation, absolutely. There are obviously key parts of the population projects that are funded through Scottish Government that are very relevant to the Stewartry area. Indeed, a number of aspects of that. So we'd certainly bring that forward, and particularly bring any particular data sets that relate to the area committee as well. So happy to do so.
Thank you, Lorna. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. Quite agree about the taxi provision on page 88. A number of our residents, a lot of our residents get taxi cards. They actually find difficulty using them because there aren't mobility taxis that can take them. So I hope that might be included for those who've unfortunately had to give up driving, or the person who drove them is no longer able to do so. I was wondering, this is not particularly a Stewartry thing maybe, or some information that we need, but page 85 to 86, the processing times of benefit applications and crisis grants, I think that's something that we need to have as members. So if we've got someone approaching us in difficulty and needing a response, that we've got some kind of idea of the process, of what happens, how long it should take. If it's taking a bit longer, can we do something to help? Maybe not as the Stewartry one, but I think that's information that we need as members so that we can work with our residents in a better way.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Lorna?
Yeah, happy to do that and happy to bring that information forward. We'd look to see whether there was an ability to break that information down in some way to give relevance to the area, but we'd certainly bring the region-wide information and be able to provide that information to committee for your debate.
Are there any further questions or comments about selected items from members? Councillor Drysdale?
It was just to get clarification from Claire, the governance officer, if we're at our 6. And if not, Chair, just to say, I know we're looking at the number of contracts awarded to local suppliers, and I think on the last report I saw it was 40% at the moment, and the council's been working hard to try and improve procurement and make it easier for local suppliers to get on the procurement list. We need to keep pushing for that because we need people to stay in our area, and we need quick response times to floods and issues with roads and all the other traffic management and so on and so forth. So I don't know if members would agree to put that on here specifically for the Stewartry, as we do know that there have been people applying and finding it still quite hard to get on those lists. So I think it's very important. But I don't know if we're at our total yet, Claire. Through yourself, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. Helpful points. And Claire, could you give us an overview?
Okay, thank you. I can tell you where you're at, wherever I think you're at. Success measures. I've got number 7, 8, 18 now, and 28 and 29. Projects 32, 25 and 44. There's action there to clarify project number 10, to come back with some info on that and why that's there.
Claire, do we have a list of how many measures we've selected? What's the exact number of measures we've selected?
Success measure 7, 8, 28, 29, 18. So that's 5. And the communications strategy 44 projects, 44, 25 and 32. So there's 3 projects there, total of 8. I don't think there's a set number really. It's just not to get too high and make sure it's achievable. And there's an action there about item number 10. So it's really for members to determine how many they wish to take forward. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members? Are we, Councillor Lowe?
So are these just for reports for the next year or something that we'll regularly get? Because one thing that we discussed at Nithsdale was we chose some measures for this year as a set, but there were other measures that people wanted to look at, so we can go back to those in the future to bring those into play. So are we set with these now forever, or can we choose some this year and then next year we maybe take a different focus?
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Are we all in agreement with that suggestion? Claire, can you clarify if we can do that?
Well, my understanding again, Chair, is this is a new process, so you won't be stuck with any of these forevermore, and they'll be subject to review as this process moves forward. Thank you.
Hopefully that's clear now, and we can agree the success measures. Are we all content with that? Okay. Thank you, members. We'll move forward then to recommendations. And 1, note the new arrangements for performance management by area committees as set out in paragraph 4.1. Oh, sorry, can we hold there? We have Councillor Lowe with a question.
Just a request, is it possible just to get a short comfort break? Because maybe at the end of this item, just have a wee break.
Yep, we'll take a comfort break as soon as we finish these recommendations. Let's do that. and I know that there's refreshments and we need to have a comfort break. Thank you for raising that. So, one, note the new arrangements for performance management by area committee set out in paragraph 4.1. 2, agree a small number of success measures and projects from the Enabling and Customer Service Directorate as referred in paragraphs 4.5, 4.6 and detailed in Appendix 1. Claire has confirmed again. Could you just confirm again, Claire, the measures that have been selected?
Okay, thank you. Success measures, we have numbers 7, 8, 18, 28 and 29. Projects, it's numbers 25, 32 and 44. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. 3, note that performance monitoring reports on selected success measures and projects will be reported to the area committee on a 6-monthly basis as set out in paragraph 4.8. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. I know that we've had a busy session so far, so we'll take a comfort break. Thank you, Lorna and Elaine, for your time this morning. Take care and we'll see you again soon. We'll take a 10-minute comfort break.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a comfortable break. We'll now move on to item 8. Just check that all our remote participants are ready to go. All right. Item 8, Economy and Infrastructure Directorate, Area Performance Reporting, report by Executive Director, Economy and Infrastructure. Our next report is Economy and Infrastructure Area Report. I would like to welcome them to the meeting Karen Brownlee, Interim Assistant Director, Transport and Infrastructure, to answer any questions on this report. I'll now open it up for members to propose which of these actions or success measures they would like to look into over the coming year. Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. I'll go to page 95. Can I ask, is 27 and 29 repetitive? Because they're just the same. Review of DG buses, needs provision and delivery. Because I definitely think we should have that as a project, because seeing it's a new bus system it's come in, I think we need to keep up to date if there's any problems arising or whether successful it's been. But is that a repetitive, I think?
I can
Karen,
answer
could
that
you
one,
answer
Chair.
that question? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, members, and through yourself, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stitt. Just to confirm, that is a duplication. So thank you for picking that one up.
I'd like to include number 27, please.
Thank you, Councillor Stitt. Councillor Lowe.
Page 97, 51, the void turnaround with agreed timescales, given the housing emergency that we have and the need to get people into the right house. .51 on page 97.
That's noted. Next we have Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I support my colleagues in their previous comments in relation to the buses and the void properties, but nobody will be surprised to hear me ask it number 19 and 20 to be included in relation to the Cookabry Bridge. But also I think number 18, we had some particular issues in Gatehouse earlier in the last 12 months or so in relation to RAC. So I do think that it's important that we get a survey of the area to make sure we understand what the issue is and what the potential consequences are, and that we are able to keep our communities informed. Thank you.
Thank you, that's noted. Councillor Drysdale.
Thanks very much, Chair. Through yourself, I just was going to mention the Levelling Up Fund project, the LUF, on page 95-21. Karen, it's my understanding that if we don't deliver the three projects within 25-26, then they're scrapped anyway. So could you just confirm that that's the case? I do think we have to deliver between 25-26 or we lose that money. Thanks.
Karen, could you answer that question?
Thank you, Chair. Through yourself, thank you, Councillor Drysdale. So, yeah, just to confirm the funding for LUF is 25-26 and therefore requires to be spent by the 31st of March 2026. So you're correct in your thinking. Thank you.
Do we have any other points yet, Councillor Young?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I'm looking at a success measure in my head rather than on the paper. If you go down the high streets of the Stewartry towns, it would be interesting to note and have a report on the amount of empty retail properties there are in each of their streets, because I think that would give a good indication of the well-being of the retail supply in the Stewartry towns. But it's not there as a success measure, but I wonder if it should be just a retail outlet report on the number of empty properties. And the other one, the short-term late licenses, I see in 29 and 30, there's not much difference between 9 months and 12 months of application. But it'd be interesting to know, not just to have
an ongoing tally of how many short-term let properties there are in each of the parts of the Stewartry and see if the numbers increasing or decreasing? Because short-term lets get a bad name, but I think they provide a great deal of economic benefit to the areas in which they're in, but it's becoming harder and harder and more expensive to become a short-term landlord, shall we say. So that's two recommendations that aren't on the success measures relating to retail outlets and short-term lets. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, do you have any comment? Or we're quite happy just to note that.
Thank you, Chair, and through yourself, what I would comment in terms of the retail property outlets, happy to take that back to colleagues in economy and environment. So that won't be within the service plan for 25-26, but it could be a consideration potentially for future year service plans. So happy to take that back to colleagues.
Is that okay, Councillor Young?
Thank you. And any comment on the number of short-term lets available in the Stewartry, broken down by areas?
Through yourself, Chair, apologies, Councillor Young. So I'm noting on page 96 that the area data is available. So when these reports are reported back through Service Committee, I assume that these will be broken down within that. But again, happy to go back to E&E colleagues just to seek that further information. But if members of Stewartry Area Committee decided to take these two elements forward to scrutinise further at a further area committee, then, as I say, the area data is available. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just add, well next, Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. It was just to go on the back of Councillor Young's point, Karen. I hope you don't mind me asking this, but we are increasingly seeing the degeneration of properties in all of our wards across the region because of vacated properties, and obviously we can't get hold of the owners. I don't know what the political atmosphere is like with regards to that. If you have any knowledge as to whether or not Westminster or the Scottish Government are going to change the rules and regulations as to what controls we can have over properties, whereby, you know, we don't hear from the owners or can get any feedback when they're causing next door properties to leak and have various problems. So I probably do endorse Councillor Young's suggestion here, because we're really seeing difficulties in all of our towns and villages, especially, well, Dumfries as well as our smaller towns. So just if you have any information on that, even not today, at a later date, if we could sort of know what the policies would be, government policies with regards to that. And then I would endorse going ahead with 12 if we've still got one or two left. As you all know, I'm a real promoter of children eating healthily. However, on the back of that, if our school meal uptake is dropping all the time, then it's probably not worth it. But if we can encourage people to eat more healthily and consume a school meal rather than going out into the communities and having fizzy drinks, etc., I would see that the two would come together. So the school meal uptake figures alongside the sustainable meals school meal strategy. But then again, if that's coming to another committee, then I wouldn't need it to come to this committee. But just any points on that would, or your feedback, Karen, would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Karen, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Through yourself. Thanks, Councillor Drysdale. So I don't have the information in terms of properties and government policies in relation to that, but I would be happy to take that back to Stuart McMillan and ask him to feed back to Stewartry Area Committee in relation to that. And in relation to school meals, you know, again, it's up to Stewartry Area Committee and whether you would want to scrutinise that at a further committee, or it will be also reported back through Service Committee, E&I Service Committee, in relation to the breakdown there. It's probably worthwhile just saying as well, you know, in terms of school meals, whilst it's noted within the appendix that's not broken down per school, per area, That's because the information within Pintana is not broken down, but as you know, Councillor Drysdale, that can be broken down per school if required, but it does take officer input. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'd probably just leave it then if we get a total figure, but thanks for that clarification, Karen. It's much appreciated.
Do members have any other questions or measures they would like to select before we move to recommendations? Thank you. We'll move to the recommendations. 1. Note the new arrangements for performance management by area committees as set out in paragraph 4.1. 2. Agree a small number of success messages for projects from the economy infrastructure directors referenced in 4.5 to 4.6, detailed in appendix 1. And sorry, I also second is to just check with Claire the measures that have been selected as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Projects, I've got numbers 18, 19, 20 and 27. And success measures, I've got 29, 30 and 51. Also got a note of a request this committee can make to Economy and Infrastructure Committee that they consider a success measure around the amount of empty retail properties going forward when they're looking at the development of their next service plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Ingrid?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, just to clarify, Claire, did you capture number 27, the review of bus services?
Yes, I've got it written down. I may not have read my own writing, but I have got projects 18, 19, 20 and 27.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Claire. We've selected those measures. Good. And third, note that performance monitoring reports on the selected success measures and projects will be reported to this area committee on a 6-monthly basis as set out in paragraph 4.8. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Karen, thank you for your time joining us this morning. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we now move to item 9, Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing Directorate, Area Performance Reporting, Report by Executive Director, Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing. Our last report this section is the Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing Director Performance Report. I would like to welcome to the meeting Gillian Bridson, Executive Director, Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing, to answer any questions on this report. Gillian, glad that you're here. I'll open up now for the members to propose which of these actions or success measures they would like to look into over the coming year. Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. Under projects, I'd go to, personally myself, I don't know what other members are thinking, page 105 would pick number 1. Page 106 I'd pick number 11. And I'd also pick number 23, which is a continued support to Youth Council, because I think they're a vital contributor to us as a council.
Thank you. Could you put your microphone on, please, Councillor?
It was page 105, number page 106, number 11 and 23.
Thank you. Gillian, is there anything that you wanted to comment on or note?
No, absolutely happy to provide a deeper dive into those projects. So for those numbers, in terms of looking at the early learning and childcare, primary school and secondary school mothballing policy, then we're also looking at the project 11, which is progressing the anti-bullying work across all our school settings, and finally to do a deeper dive into continuing support to the Youth Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking on page 105, reference 44, the number of attendances at swimming pools. Now, if you looked at Castle Douglas swimming pool over the past 6 to 9 months, you would see a drop in attendances. That's because it's had a leaking roof, it's been closed for low temperature, it's been closed for dirty water, and really I think just the raw number of attendances doesn't give the full picture. I would also like to see accompanying that reason why pools have been closed in the region. But as you know, the 3 ward members are looking forward to the eventual upgrading of Castle Douglas swimming pool, and it'd be nice to have an ongoing success measure of the progress towards the start of that, you know, when the tenders go out, when work's been awarded, what particular work. So I would like, if possible, to have a more honest number of attendances at swimming pools with reasons, and also a progress report on the upgrading of Castle Douglas swimming pool, which is actually incredibly important to the local community's well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to provide that. And I think it does, if Stewartry Area Committee choose to look at that particular figure, it does give us an opportunity to add a story around the raw number in terms of just the number of attendances. It does give us an opportunity to compare that and to benchmark that, and to give us an overall picture of how best we can increase footfall to our leisure facilities across the region, and including Castle Douglas. And of course, as with all capital projects, it would be suitable, it would be a good piece of work to project plan the capital maintenance and repair process at Castle Douglas. It doesn't appear here, but it's clearly a piece of work we could incorporate to that report.
Thank you.
Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose page 105, 47, unemployed, inactive, disadvantaged participants supported into employment, training and education. I think a local focus on that is, are people having to travel into Dumfries, for example, for support? What are we delivering, even through the third sector in the Stewartry, sort of more in our location? And the other one, it's a known ongoing piece of work, but page 107, number 30, the review of common good funds and trusts. There's a number of these all over the place that all seem to be operating very slightly differently because of the history. And I think to get that into alignment, but we've got a lot of local trusts in the Stewartry, and I'd like to propose that one.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Gillian?
Thank you. Again, a project and a success measure, which we can, it's not easy to disaggregate some of that at an area level, but we can certainly try to ensure that Stewartry Area Committee receive the information that would help them in their scrutiny role. Thank you.
Councillor Lowe, would you like to switch off your microphone? Thank you. Councillor Stuart Walker.
Thank you. I would like to clarify or seek clarification for item 3 on the projects. Does that include secondary schools for the digital assets which are being selected to be fit for purpose and updated and secure? And I would also like to highlight the importance of this project because of the recent incorporation of things such as online learning as well as online resources in our learning practices within the schools across the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Gillian?
Thank you, Youth Councillor. Yes, indeed, it does include the secondary schools, and to ensure that they are fit for purpose for certificated learning as well as for broader curriculum access. Thank you.
Stuart? Satisfied? Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, Gillian, for the report. It was just on page 107, as Councillor Lowe has alluded to, on number 30, if we can somehow include that we include a review of the legal documents required and the legal agreements when we're looking at common goods and implementation of community asset transfers, etc. I think that needs to be, looked into in depth because of the issues that we've been experiencing in 1 or 2 properties across the region. And also, I agree with Councillor Stitt, page 106 on 23. However, I would probably prefer that that was moved to number 22. It goes without saying that we need to offer continued support to the Youth Council and the fabulous work that they do alongside education and all the other departments. But to me, it's more important that we deliver on the key work areas within the youth work strategy, which would take us from 24 to 29, and have a bit more deep delve into what that encompasses. As Stuart has alluded to, there's a lot of requirement for different avenues to be explored for young people. That's leading them into work, improving their and helping them with their interview techniques, CVs, whether they want to go to uni, college, or go straight into the workplace. And also that would encompass bullying, as well as online safety and use of media. So that would incorporate all of those things. So I think it would be a bit more all-encompassing. So if Councillor Stitt was in agreement to that, could we move 23 to 22 through yourself, Chair, and then through Councillor Stitt? Thank you.
Yep, Councillor Stitt. Would you like to comment?
It'd be nice if we could integrate both of them together, but I don't know if we'd be able to do that. Gillian would be.
Gillian, could you answer that question?
I'm sure that the support to the activity of the youth work would form part of. I've actually lost count. I'm not quite sure. Perhaps Ingrid could remind us how many we have already selected. But I think one could be assumed within the other. And if Stewartry Area Committee wish to look at this in the round, we will do all we can to provide you with the information that you need. Thank you.
That's fine. Thanks, Gillian.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair. To highlight page 106, number 10, which I brought up previously under a different item, to review the teaching staff allocations and curriculum models, can we take out secondary and just leave it at schools?
Gillian?
Again, we can provide Area Committee with information on schools. The wording within this, as you'll know, has been agreed by Service Committee. So, but again, we can certainly look into that on a broader level. I'm not trying to create additional work for the team. However, recognise that your request is to look at all schools, not just secondary schools, should you choose to do a deep dive into that particular success measure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Are there any, do members have any other success measures they would like to consider? We'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to note the new arrangements for performance management by area committees as set out in paragraph 4.1. 2. Agree a small number of success measures and projects from the Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing Directorate as referenced in paragraphs 4.5 to 4.6 and detailed in Appendix 1. Could I ask Claire to confirm the selected success measures?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Projects, we have numbers 1, 11, 22, 23, 30, 10, noting the comment Gillian made about broadening out to all schools, and success measures numbers 44 and 47.
Have we captured everything there? Yeah. In that case, note that those reports have been outlined. Members, are you happy to read the recommendations? Thank you. Gillian, thank you so much for being with us today. Item 10, development of the regional parking strategy, delivery plan, Stewartry, report by Interim Assistant Director of Transport and Infrastructure. Our next report is the regional parking strategy, delivery plan for Wigtown. This is a complex and long-running issue and very much welcome the opportunity to discuss this today. I would like to welcome to the meeting Alicia Hammond, Parking Team Leader, Network Strategy and Road Safety, to answer any questions on this report. Alicia, do you have anything to add before I open the floor to members for any comments?
Not at the moment, thank you.
No? Okay. I'll therefore open the floor to members to ask questions and comments. Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. It's not so much for anything contained in the report, it's just something which is, it doesn't appear, and that is reference to pavement parking, and whilst the report obviously makes no reference to pavement parking, this is an issue which is causing considerable concerns within the communities, primarily due to the width of agricultural vehicles. We're now getting tractors which are over 3 metres wide. We're getting vehicles getting damaged on a fairly regular basis throughout the region. So I believe we could address these concerns with an additional recommendation, and I'm happy to read that out if Claire's ready to record what I'm about to say as a recommendation. You're quite clear on that. And that would be a recommendation at 2.3 that agree that within the Stewartry, pavement parking will be enforced on receipt of a complaint and where less than 1.5 metres of pavement has been left for pedestrian use. And I'd be happy to move that as an additional recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Howie. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. I'd be happy to second that. Thank you. Sorry, Chair, I'll repeat. I'd be happy to second that. Thank you.
So, Elisa, do you have any comments on that point? Elsa?
Good afternoon. Yeah, the pavement parking ban is covered by the Transport Scotland 2019 Act, and that will be enforced when we actually have parking officers employed by the council on the streets. At present, we don't have the parking officers to enforce that. Thank you.
So, Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's really just to ask if we can get a copy of Councillor Howie's proposal and recommendation. Thank you.
Can we have a copy?
I believe we could quickly draft
We can
something
take a
up.
short adjournment
Yeah,
to
we
do
can
that.
take a short adjournment, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Right. In the chat function we have the message. And Councillor McFarlane, if you'd like to just repeat what you'd said.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to say, I think we should reinforce it and say that it should be more than one complaint, receipt of more than one complaint, so that we don't just have one complaint from one person and as a consequence we then start ticketing. So it shows that it's a problem to more than one person. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howe's happy to agree with that, so we take forward that recommendation.
Councillor Blake.
Sorry, did I miss you, Councillor Blake? Please go ahead.
Yes, please. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't agree with that recommendation. I think that the legislation will have sufficient flexibility in it that it'll be down to discretion, and I think it would be unwise to wait for a complaint where our officers may very well come across something that is blatantly obvious and that it is causing a danger, and for them not to have the power to go ahead without a complaint being made. I think that would be unwise. So I would certainly not agree to that addition.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. We have Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. Before we go into any more debate about this, I just want to make a couple of points. I think the issues we have in Dumfries and Galloway, particularly wards 3 and 4, are the tiny, tiny villages. And I actually was at a community council meeting last night. Kirkpatrick, Durham comes to mind, and we need to think regionally about this. If we lose one whole side of parking, I've got two disabled residents, or we have got two disabled residents in Kirkpatrick, Durham. They won't mind me mentioning that. If we lose a whole side of parking, which actually works at the moment quite well in slowing our bigger vehicles down and our tractors down, our agricultural vehicles, then we're in dire danger of damaging our communities, their internal way of workings, their communication with each other. So I would still be happy to second this motion on a case-by-case basis. I understand it will be difficult to implement, but as Councillor McFarlane's quite rightly said, if we have more autonomy within our own regions, we should be able to look at that, because some of our villages are so narrow and have so many houses with ageing populations, we're going to be really up against it. So therefore I think the teams within Dumfries and Galloway Council are probably well placed to be able to understand that on a town-by-town basis. Quite how we implement that, I totally accept, is going to be difficult, but I do want to continue to support Councillor Howie's motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I understand that members have concerns over this issue. We're going to invite Ingrid just to make some comment.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to check with governance if actually this recommendation meets the delegations of this particular committee. Thank you.
I believe we have... Sorry, we'll have Claire provide some clarification.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking at the recommendations in the report, and it's to agree that the content of the final regional parking strategy, the delivery plan Stewartry report for progressing to the adoption of the appropriate committee. So at this stage, that recommendation would be an amendment to that strategy, but that it gets adopted by the appropriate committee. That's my understanding of what we're asked for here.
Any further comments? I see Karen has a hand up. Karen, can you help?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to jump in and just ask for governance advice in relation to that, because I would have thought that the authorisation for changing the strategy would sit with the service committee. But what I want to give members the assurance of is this would sit within the DPE and the wider parking strategy elements, as Ailsa has explained. So just wanted to jump in and confirm that for members. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Young?
Thank you. I'm not quite sure where we're going with this. I mean, I fully support Councillor Howie's additional recommendation. On page 121, the discriminalised parking enforcement are to be obtained region-wide. However, it is at the Council's discretion as to where enforcement activity is prioritised. So we can surely, as a Stewartry Area Committee, enable this recommendation to go ahead. We seem to have the power within that statement.
I think that's a valid point raised by Councillor Young. I'm sure that as councillors we would agree with that. So, Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. I'm just reading the motion. Just to take into context with what Councillor Blake had said, could we not just add to the motion that it's not just over one complaint, or where an enforcement officer makes a decision, so if they see something that needs to be enforced, that they have that ability to do it without a complaint? Clearly, if something's blocking an access or whatever needs to do, so the officer then has a role.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale? Or Elsa?
Oh, sorry, just to clarify, once the DPE powers are in place and the parking officers are patrolling, that will be part of their role, will be all, as well as DPE violations, they will be looking onto the Transport 19 parking, pavement parking violations as well, and that will be part of their role while they're patrolling to issue PCNs on the pavement parking as well as the drop curb. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Drysdale?
I think, to be fair to the officer, that's why we're questioning it deeply, because we could really affect some of our smaller villages. When I'm looking at the Swestrands plan here through Sistra, it is a wee bit vague in terms of, are we talking about the whole of the Stewartry or just the main towns, conurbations and car parks? That's where it's a bit vague to me. I could be just missing something. So, for example, on page 120.4, ensure effective enforcement of parking so as to maximise available supply and minimise traffic disruption and congestion, which is what we're trying to look at for the smaller villages. So the parking on pavements could become very complicated for us and make things very difficult for residents. So I don't know whether that particular point just covers car parks as such, or the word car parking means car parking across the region. It is a bit vague. So I think we need to know today if we can implement this, or if we could implement it at a later date. The danger is we've already got community councils really alarmed in our smaller towns as to what's going to happen with the car parking on pavement policies. Thanks, Chair.
We have Councillor Howie's motion. Oh, Councillor Howie?
No, I was just seeking clarification from Claire whether the motion, the additional recommendation is competent or not. I was just looking for clarification on that.
Thank you. Claire, can you help?
Thank you. Well, there's advice given, and the advice, specialist advice from Karen Brownlee was that it would proceed through the appropriate committee rather than be for this committee to determine. So it could be certainly be a recommendation from Stewartry Area Committee for what you put.
Chair, I'm quite happy to proceed with it, and if it's subsequently challenged down the road, we can address it at that time. But going on today's meeting, I'm quite happy to submit the recommendation, the additional recommendation as it stands, as supported by Councillor McFarlane. Thank you.
Councillor Drysdale?
Through yourself, Chair, and just asking Councillor Howie if he'd be happy, we could slightly change the wording that would cover all of us in this meeting to say Could you go back up, sorry, to the chat? I didn't bring my laptop with me, or my iPad today, sorry. Thank you very much, Abby. And just change the wording that would cover all of us. Agree to consider that in the Stewartry payment, consider going forward. Then at least we're alerting the rest of Dumfries and Galloway Council and the teams that we do have these severe concerns about our smaller villages. But I don't know how you'd feel about that, Councillor Howie.
I would rather.
Okay, happy to go with that to second his Councillor Howie's recommendation. Thanks.
Chair, Chair, can I interrupt you, please?
Can we check with Ian Blakely?
It's Ian Blake, yeah. First of all, can I ask that if my messages are actually appearing on the chat function, because I have put speak and then I have asked to speak and then I raised my hand, just in case there's a technical issue. I did have this on one occasion before, but I don't seem to be taken. Could you first of all check that it's appearing on chat?
Yeah, Councillor Blake, just to confirm that your information in the chat did show up. It's just a case of the chair managing the business and those that want to come in. Sorry.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Providing you have it. I'm a bit confused with Councillor Drysdale's comment that she supports the motion, but she wants it on a case-by-case basis. I think there's a real contradiction there. The legislation, as it will stand, will give that discretion to the parking officers, whether or not they do enforce it or don't enforce it. I think it would be really unwise to try and tie their hands at this stage, and certainly on an area basis, because that's going to cause confusion. And apart from that, going to the whether or not we can actually implement that change, I would suggest that we can't. At best, it could be a recommendation to the parent committee, TNI, and they may consider it, although I still don't agree with the motion, and I would certainly go against that as a motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blake, and apologies for earlier. It's quite difficult to see just because of the light in the room. I don't know if we can close more of the curtains, if that would help people to be able to see what's on the screen. Okay. And is it? Turn the lights out. It's the lights. Okay, the main lights.
Wrong set.
Okay.
Stick the others back on now. That's as good
Okay.
as it's going to get, unfortunately.
Thank you. We can see the screen more clearly now. I'll just go back to Claire.
Thank you. My advice as your governance officer is that that additional motion as it currently stands wouldn't be competent. That's my advice, but for you to determine. But you could add in, agree to recommend that in Stewartry pavement parking will only be enforced. Give that recommendation back to the parent committee to consider and obviously be minuted.
Thank you, Claire. Are we happy to agree with that change to recommend? Members in favour of that? Councillor Howie?
So I'm not going to go against governance advice, and that's we've already. I think we've registered. Councillor Blake is aware of our concerns and the need for discretion to be applied in this particular area. It's just so that we can go to our community councils on this basis and say that there is the ability for discretion in this matter, and that there's not an intention of every car in every village getting ticketed.
Okay, Claire?
Yeah, it's just Chair, I was just wondering, does Councillor Blake want to come back on that at all?
Yes, please. It's maybe it's me today. I'm a bit confused with that one. I would agree that we, if there were, we put something to the parent committee, that where we understand the issues that may be caused by this, that each would be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, that there is discretion built into it. But I don't think we could carry on and say, but not at all in Stewartry, or recommend not at all in Stewartry. If that element was taken out, I would quite agree with supporting the comment that we ask for, the ability for discretion, which in fact the legislation will have built in anyway. But by all means, if Councillor Howie could clarify that point.
Thank you, Councillor Blake, for clarifying your point. Councillor Howie.
Just for the avoidance of any doubt, the motion that I'm putting forward does not promote parking that would block a pavement. It's always saying that 1.5 metres must be remained clear for pedestrian use, which is the recommendation within, I believe, the legislation anyway. So it's not saying that would be excused in any matter. It's just that if that is to be breached for any reason, that it should be a supplement complaint should be put to the authorities for the situation to be addressed. It's to give them the scope to deal with transgression of the 1.5 metre, but not just to go round almost saying ticketing cars on a basis which could look like the public, the driving public, are being targeted in a way which is not sympathetic to, as I say, rural living.
Thank you, Councillor Howie. Councillor Blake, did you want to respond?
Yes, I do. In my opinion, the legislation has that discretionary power anyway. That I would, in that case, I move an amendment that we do not put forward that recommendation. I think that would cause confusion, only trying to limit it to Stewartry, and I don't really think it's necessary. I do understand the sympathy, the sympathy behind. I've got sympathy for the issues behind it on villages, but I don't think we could build that into it. We have the legislation, and it would be unwise to try and alter these powers at this stage when that discretion is there. Thank you.
In this situation then, in terms of the recommendation that's been put forward, I understand Councillor Howie in a situation. I see that Councillor Young has his hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to request that we move forward with this. We now have a motion for an additional recommendation which has been seconded, and we have an amendment by Councillor Blake. Will obviously need a seconder as well. So it's just a plea to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Agreed on that point. So Councillor Howie as the proposer. We have a seconder. Who was the seconder? Councillor Drysdale. Can we now go to Councillor Blake and his amendment? Is there a seconder for Councillor Blake's amendment? Do we have a member that wishes to second that? Councillor McFarlane is proposing to second that, so no, sorry. Okay. McFarlane wishes to second Councillor Howie, but I think we've already got Councillor Drysdale that's seconding Councillor Howie, so just to clarify that. So Councillor Howie is the proposer, seconder is Councillor Drysdale. If we can now go to the amendment proposed by Councillor Blake, do we have a seconder to support that? There's no seconder, which means that we can't move forward with Councillor Blake's amendment as there isn't a seconder. Therefore, we'll proceed and move forward with the recommendation. from Councillor Howie, and we will move forward on that basis. Sorry, Claire,
Okay,
do you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask Councillor Blake, as he hasn't received a second, or would you like us to send recorded in the minute? Thank you very much.
Yes, please, Claire.
That is recorded. We'll now move forward to the recommendations. Members are asked to moving to recommendations. 1, agree the content of the final regional parking strategy delivery plan. Stewartry report for progressing to adoption at appropriate committee, paragraphs 4.2 to 4.5 and appendix 1. And 2, note the progress being made with the decriminalised parking enforcement, DPE, application for parking enforcement, paragraphs 4.6 to 4.9. And to ask Claire just to confirm Councillor Howard's recommendation, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Agree to recommend to the Economy and Infrastructure Committee that in Stewartry pavement parking will only be enforced on receipt of more than one complaint and where less than 1.5 metres pavement is left for pedestrian use.
Okay, members are happy to agree the recommendations? Councillor Drysdale.
I am really sorry to come in late on this. I should have picked up on it earlier. I don't know if I'm allowed to come back in on another point just before we agree the recommendations. Governance, is that okay? Yeah. No, okay.
Well, okay.
Okay,
We'll
just a point to make. We are agreeing in point, pardon me, members, in 2.1 that we're agreeing the content of the final regional parking strategy delivery plan for adoption at the next committee, the appropriate committee. And in 5.7.2 on page 131, the community in Castle Douglas will not accept. I know that before any surveys are done, that increased space will be given for cycle parking. We do not want, the residents of Castle Douglas and visitors and people in the surrounding area do not want any more parking spaces taken away. And I'm just a little bit nervous that that's included in that report. So I don't know how we assess that, or can that be brought up through yourself, Chair, and governance at a future meeting, as I've omitted to mention it. I'm sorry, we got so tied up with this motion and amendment. I don't, we're about to possibly get the LUF funding and we'll have cycle parking there. So that to me is an error, but I don't know how we can address that. I'm sorry to put you in this position, Chair, and governance and members. Thanks.
So we will need to ask Elsa just to check if it's okay to defer this for a future meeting. Sorry, to bring it back, bring it forward to a future meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it back to a meeting.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Yes. Elsa, is that okay?
Sorry, yes, that's okay.
Thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Just to check, are we all in order with everything? Okay, we're good to proceed then. Thank you. That's agreed then. We'll now move on to item 11. Local Place Plan Update and Registrations Report by Interim Head of Economy and Development. This report is asking members to agree to register local place plans which have been prepared for Brogue, Carsfin and Gatehouse of Fleet. All three plans are considered to meet the legislative requirements and contain a range of actions that have been identified by the community through extensive consultation and engagement. I would like to welcome to the meeting Shona McCoy, Team Leader, Development Planning, who is here to answer any questions members may have on this report. Shona, do you have anything to add before I open the floor for members' comments?
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing further to add to the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor to members' questions and comments. Councillor Lowe.
I would just like to commend the work that's been put into these place plans. I know two of these communities really well. They're very small, they're quite scattered, and yet the amount of work that the residents and officers have put in to put these together is amazing. And I just think the resilience of our community should be noted. So a thank you to the officers and residents.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. That will be noted. Do we have any other member questions or comments? We'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to note the Brogue, Carsfin. Sorry, could we go back? We do have a member question from Councillor Dougie Campbell.
Apologies for that, Chair. It's a question for Shona. I've been approached by a resident in the area of one of the place plans, and it's a query about whether the place plan is a material consideration for any planning applications considered by planning officers or the planning committee. I think I know the answer to this, Shona, but it's just for the records. Could you just clarify that, please?
Thank you. Shona, are you able to answer that question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor Campbell. Yeah, once the excuse me, once the local place plan is registered, it will have some weight in the planning application process, and ultimately we are then required to take it into account when preparing the next local development plan.
Thanks, Shona.
Satisfied with that, Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, that's fine. As I said, I knew what the answer was going to be, but I just wanted to have it on the record for the purposes of the person that has contacted me several times.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Are there any other member questions or comments? If not, we'll move to recommendations. So again, to note that Brogue, Cosfin and Gatehouser Fleet local place plans supporting statements Appendix 1, 2 and 3 demonstrate that the local place plan legislative requirements have been met. 2. Agree that the Brogue and Carsfin and Gatehouser Fleet place plans Appendix 4, 5 and 6 are registered by the Council as local place plans and are added to the local place plan register on the Council's webpage. And 3, note the progress being made by the community bodies in the Stewartry area who have expressed an interest in preparing a local place plan, paragraphs 4.19 to 4.20. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Move to item 12. Former Sea Angling Rooms Kakubri report by Interim Assistant Director, Transport and Infrastructure. We know we have a report to inform us that the former Sea Angling Rooms in Kakubri have been declared surplus to council requirements. Tom Higgins, Corporate Landlord Leader, is available to answer members' questions and comments. Members, any questions or comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Not really a comment on the application itself, but just a general point, and it's one that has been raised previously by other members in relation to other matters, is that on page 355 we have a block plan and we also have the location plan. But is it possible that we could have some photographs and context in relation to this so that we get a greater understanding? Not all members will be familiar with that location, so it would be just helpful to contextualise that for future reference. Thanks.
I think I understand Councillor McFarlane's request there. Tom, are you able to answer that question?
Good afternoon, Chair, members, colleagues. Yeah, we'll endeavour to forward you the photographs that we have within PMIS for your records.
Thank you, Tom. Are you happy with that response?
Yeah, just for future reference, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other member questions or comments? We'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to, one, note that the former sea angling officers' Kukubri extending to 19 square metres or thereby as shown outlined in black on the appendix has been declared surplus to council requirements. Note that the Community Council and groups listed in paragraph 4.4 in this report have been consulted regarding potential community interest, and identify any other local groups to be engaged with in regard to the disposal of the former sea angling officers' Kukubri. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? See, we have Councillor Blake's hand up.
No.
Can I check? No? Your hand is not up. Okay. So if members are agreed, thank you. Item 13, land at Rayburn Cottage, Hard Hills, Castle Douglas, report by interim. Sorry. We okay? Yeah, I was just going to agree that that's been withdrawn from the agenda. And will be for a future meeting, so thank you. Item 14, Stewartry Area Committee, Programme of Community Engagement 2025-26, report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our next report is the Stewartry Area Committee, Programme of Community Engagement 2025-26. Again, this was an outcome of the review of area committees and is a positive development which will allow us to collectively hear from the people we serve in a different way and complementing our individual arrangements and council-wide engagement. Kirsty Peden, Community Engagement Manager, is available to answer questions. Kirsty, do you have anything to add before I open the floor for members' comments?
Nothing to add to the report, Chair.
I'll open the floor to members for their suggestions about engagement activities during the coming year. Members? Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Ingrid. I think from a councillor perspective, we welcome this. I think communities will be really happy to hear that this, sorry, thank you to yourself, that communities will applaud this and see it as positive engagement. However, I think we need to be really careful about the things we take forward, because there is a feeling in our communities that, and across the whole of Scotland actually, that when consultations take place and communities are listened to, that often nothing happens, and we don't want that to become a bugbear for us as councillors, with all due respect. So the one thing I would want included, if it's possible through yourself, is to ask if we can try and help our communities work out how to use the reporting system. I think as councillors we spend an inordinate amount of time taking EMES inquiries, but also trying to explain to constituents and community councils how to use the reporting system online, which has actually really improved over the past few years, Christy. But I think people feel how do they report the pothole, how do they report the blocked drain, and then they feel there's a bit of a stagnation on as to what happens next and how to report it again, or how to go through their community councils. So if there's some way of informing our communities through these engagement sessions as to how to go about doing that, and also utilise the benefits of their councillors at the same time, because a lot of the time myself, Councillor Young and Councillor Howie get duplicate emails, and we tend to as a team go back to the constituent and say, look, one of us will deal with this rather than three if it's appropriate. So that's what I would ask for if that's possible, that we can discuss at these events how to report matters on the council website, how to make emergency calls if it's through the night and over weekends, so that elected members aren't constantly left with those issues to deal with. So it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week almost sometimes if there's an emergency. And mainly, I would say roads and accessing help care packages for people, you know, on a weekly basis would also be very helpful. How they call the access line, the help access line, because a lot of constituents are not aware of that help access point. So these would be my 2 points, and I would be interested to hear what other members thought. Thank you very much, Kirsty. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. Kirsty, would you like to reply?
Just to remind members that obviously within the report we're highlighting that it is within your gift in terms of both the style in terms of how we engage with communities and also the content, and so it's perfectly acceptable if that's the kind of theme that members want to go down for us to run some sort of session, and we'd rely on working with Ingrid and her team in order to make best use of local networks and connections to do that.
Thank you, Kirsty. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. It's just to clarify at 4.6, suggestions from the Area Committee to consider community bodies receiving council funds to deliver local priorities. Would I be right in thinking, Kirsty, that that doesn't include common good funds?
Kirsty?
Through the chair, Councillor Campbell, you can, if this committee chooses to want to include some of the common good recipients in that, you could. It's with your discretion. I'm guessing that that might be something you want to engage common good members as part of the discussion, but I see no reason why common good does report into the Stewartry Committee on some of the expenditure on those common goods, if I'm right, if memory serves me right, and so it might be appropriate for you to look at some of the recipients of those funds as part of your engagement.
Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what my fellow trustees on Kilfreebury Common Good, what view they take. But, you know, we do provide grants from the Common Good Fund to local bodies who are aligned with council priorities. And so I think that possibly, subject to what my colleagues think, I think that's something that could potentially benefit us.
Yeah, I would agree with what Councillor Campbell has said there. Kirsty, is there anything further you would like to add?
No, other than if there is any suggested particular approaches that you think have worked well in the Stewartry in recent times in terms of how to do that, whether the Area Committee, we are proposing that these meetings are held in the evening. They're not the formal sense of Area Committees where, you know, we have the mics and the speakers. There is, of course, a note and a record retained, and that might come back to Councillor Drysdale's point in terms of making sure that we have got some sort of feedback so they know what action's been taken, but it's not a formal meeting of the committee. But in the Stewartry, it may be that a suggestion would be to hold in a local community hall or school and have a conversation around whatever's best fitting for that particular subject matter, which I'm hearing is kind of grants to local bodies. How to communicate with Dumfries and Galloway Council and the range of methods we have to do that. Was there another one that I've missed? No, that was the two I think that I'm picking up. Sorry, through yourself, Chair. So there was the care packages. Care packages, I wonder if that was the kind of call centre type approach where we can highlight the opportunities that are available out with working hours for people.
Thank you, Kirsty. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. This is just a plea that whatever we do will include all of our communities. So take it, for example, our community safety teams who go around into our villages and during the day, admittedly, but go around and give that opportunity. We need to include people who don't rely on technology or for where the bus transport is not very good and just don't have transport, to make it available to those communities across the board. So that kind of way of it works really well with the community safety teams of going around, and they cover a lot of places in one day, but they also get that opportunity out to all our small villages as well as being in just one of the towns.
Kirsty, you happy to
Yes.
comment on that?
Yes, Chair. Some Wigton Area Committee, for example, chose a kind of theme of they're going to work with the local secondary schools and go in and do, and they chose both in Newton Stewart and in Stranraer Academy. So other area committees have opted to go, you know, on a more sort of location by location basis. I think we'd be happy to work with Stewartry Area Committee to be able to decide which best suits and when best suits, because I think that's also, you know, it's good to pick a time of the year when people don't have other things on, you know, avoiding the sort of Christmas period. We'd be keen to do that. So happy to work with the committee members in terms of where the best locations for those are. And if you're minded to do that in more than one, I suppose I would just remind members that this is Stewartry Area Committee's approach, and therefore it would be expected or invited all members of the area committee to be at each of the events.
Thank you, Kirsty. Councillor Drysdale?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Kirsty. I think that's a very good suggestion, and if I was to take that forward, I would say 100% to get a bigger number of people turning up where it's accessible for transport would be WT Castle Douglas and Kirkcudbright, and the fourth one would either be Gatehouse or Dalry, because people up near Kersfairn and Dalry often feel a bit left out of the loop. So that would be those would be my suggestions for the 4 locations for the events, but up to other members. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Stitt.
I think we're going back to the days of when we used to have the forums after Stewartry area or Nithsdale, where we did pick different towns within the areas that we did hold them, because I know Nithsdale we used to go to Sanker, and we've had been in Stewartry before, we've been at Gatehouse and Dalry included.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsty. Members, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to... Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll move to recommendations. 1, note options and suggestions for an annual... Suggestions for annual community programme for Stewartry Area Committee, as at paragraph 4.6. Agree a proposed programme of 3 or 4 in-person community engagement sessions for Stewartry Area Committee each year, as at paragraph 4.6. And third, agree stakeholders' area of work or topics for 3 or 4 in-person community engagement sessions at paragraph 4.6. Can I check Claire will confirm what has been selected?
Thank you. I've got a couple of topics for engagement sessions, being the recipients of common good funding and basically how to communicate with the council and the range of methods. And you provided some examples such as raising emergency calls, roads and healthcare, liaising with yourselves as councillors and using the online reporting systems. There was also a bit of discussion about venues for these sessions, and you said or suggested WE, Castle Douglas, Kirkcudbright and Gatehouse or Dalry.
Thank you, Claire. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you, Kirsty. Item 15. Item 15, Stewartry Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Fund Allocation 2025-26. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our next report is the Stewartry Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Fund Allocations for 2025-26. While we do of course regret that there isn't a large enough budget to support all of the great ideas submitted by local groups to help people facing the challenge of poverty and inequality, those which have scored the highest will undoubtedly have the biggest positive impact in the area. Sean O'Toole, Ward Officer, is available to answer questions. Sean, do you have anything to add before I open the floor for members' comments?
Nothing further to add, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, I'll open the floor to members for questions and comments. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sean. I suppose it's just a wee bit of clarification. On page 369, the top 2, 4, 6 awards were made, sometimes 75% of the award. So is it that top 6 awards that reach the £29,000 which is awarded, but there was £50,000 asked for, so £21,000 was not allocated. So it's just clarification of my thoughts, Sean. Thank you.
Through yourself, Chair, you're absolutely 100%. Yeah, thank you, Chair. 100% correct there, Councillor Young. That's a true reading of the figures in front of you.
Thank you. Any further question or comment? Councillor Drysdale.
So, through yourself, Chair, thank you very much, Sean. Good to see you. I think, you know, Councillor Young and I have been looking at this, and I had a little bit of misunderstanding about it as well. So that outstanding money is still there, but the funds are closed, and from the grey lines downwards, those groups, they were told that there were insufficient funds, but yet there's 21,000 left. I just need some clarification. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit poor with my financial management reading. And if that was the case, for example, could we as members, because it says in the report that we have a bit of flexibility here, so in the report it says those groups that didn't get any monies because there were insufficient funds will now get some assistance from yourself, which is great, and another officer to go to the third sector to try and get the funding that they're looking for. And in particular, I would like to talk about the Castle Douglas Day Centre. They were only looking for £1,000 for cost to keep their minibus running. We really need that minibus because we now do not have a bus in Castle Douglas itself to help people move around the area, access the medical centre, which is out on the edge of the town. If every group were given just, I think I worked it out, was it about £100 less, that £1,000 could have been donated to the older people for the bus running costs at the day centre. But would you assure me that hopefully these groups that didn't get what they were looking for should get some help and potential funding through third sector? So there's two questions in that, really. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. Sean, could you reply?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just on the I suppose the format of how put this, it's maybe a little confusing where I've included a total. So the actual available budget was 29,219. That's the limit of the fund. There was 50,400 in total of funds requested. So the outstanding 21,181 is just the kind of over and above what we had available. So I could maybe have put that a wee bit clearer. I'll maybe take a note of that for next time when I'm reporting, just to make that a wee bit more clear. On your second point, Councillor Drysdale, around the day centre, I am in touch with, as your ward officer, I am in touch with Dr Purdy at the day centre there, and we're looking at the NHS and third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, for potential funding. So there is direct support there, and I can update you, through through my role as your ward officer on that one, kind of offline.
Thank you for clarifying that point, Sean. Are there any further questions or comments from members? Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a question for Sean in relation to page 369 when we're looking at where the scoring is. I'm just wondering, I mean, nobody's really scored above 2/3. So is there an issue in relation to the support we give to applicants in relation to how they submit their requests and how they hit the criteria that we outlined? Because the fact that the scores aren't better than they are, and I'm wondering if perhaps there's some support could be given, especially when you get to the point where somebody's submitting people are taking time, they're putting the information together, but they're getting 35%, so they're getting just over 1/3 of the information that is necessary in order for them to qualify for this funding. So I just wonder if there's something we can be doing to perhaps try and help some of these applicants to achieve what it is that they're trying to achieve. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good question and point to raise. Sean, could you answer that?
Certainly, through yourself, Chair. Thanks, Councillor McFarlane. You'll note in paragraph 410, I've kind of summarised a wee bit there about how we're going to, pick that up. The applications weren't the best written, so we're going to work closely with third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, and I'm also part of a locality hub where we have, SOCI and representation from third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, and economic development through the kind of place planning officer also. So we are kind of committed as a group to work with these groups and kind of look at their application writing and really just to look at, the method of how they put down, especially around their community involvement. I'm sure that they do have community involvement, but it's really getting that across in the application forms. So yeah, we are committed to picking that one up.
Sean, that's helpful to understand. Councillor McFarlane, would you like to reply?
Yeah, thanks for letting me back in. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure of exactly what the process is, but I'm looking at the one S5 TPI SO9 Resonate Creating Communities. I know that they've got applications in alternative places to try and pull this project together. And I'm just wondering if that's one of the things that we ask, because we have a situation here whereby, a larger body of money may be available to them, but may collapse, because we don't support it in this forum. And that's not to say that we should do it just because they have applications outstanding elsewhere, but it should be a consideration that the scale, etc. So perhaps something a little bit wider that we should take into account. Thanks.
Thank you. Sean, any comment?
Just to emphasise that, yeah, we'll be picking up with those that have been unsuccessful in particular, and giving that kind of added bit of support.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe?
Thank you. It's just a question on the monitoring and reporting back of these. So some of them are very local to one community, and some of them are Dumfries and Galloway wide, for example, the Young Women's Network. I mean, they do a great job, and I'm really pleased that they've got something towards that. If, for example, they didn't get an allocation from one of the other areas where I know they've applied, how will the monitoring for what they do in the Stewartry come back as a report to ensure that this is focused on the Stewartry when obviously they work across the whole of Dumfries and Galloway?
Good point. Thank you. Sean?
Yep, through yourself, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Lowe. Yes, we do look at, because it is Stewartry Area Committee funding, we do look at what is delivered in the Stewartry. So if they are unsuccessful in other areas, we would kind of expect the delivery within the Stewartry, because they are applying to the Stewartry funds to go ahead. Where there is that less than 100% given from what they've requested, so nobody's actually getting 100% awards, the highest 75%. So we would go back to the organisation anyway under those conditions, and to make sure that the project has outlined within their application is deliverable, or whether they could pick up the funds from elsewhere, or if they could, without making a sizable alteration to their project, that would go ahead. So there is that kind of follow-up to make sure that the delivery is still there.
Thank you. Any further questions from members? If not, we'll move to recommendations. So we'll move to recommendations. 1, consider the application summaries and scoring panels. Recommendations are set out in Appendix 2 and detailed in paragraph 4.9. 2, agree awards to be made as appropriate. And 3, subject to the decisions at 2.2, agree to carry forward any remaining budget as outlined in paragraph 4.11 and 4.12 and close the fund. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Item 16, outside bodies, Stewartry Area Committee report by Assistant Director, Governance and Human Resources. Representing our council on other forums is an important part of our role, and as can be seen from this list, these are valuable and recognised groups. So we want to ensure that we have members contributing. Fraser Davis, Improvement Development Officer, is available to answer questions. Fraser, do you have anything to add before I open the floor for members' comments?
Nothing further at this stage, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, we'll then move on to members for their nominations and proposals. Councillor Stitt.
Just under Stewartry Sports Council, actually maybe I'm the chair at present. It's just on, Fraser, it's on the, where it says in the 4.10.1, post the chair, vice chair is normally held by a councillor on a 2-year rotational basis. It was about 2 years ago we amended our constitution because at times we were struggling to get lay members to take on the role. So we've just changed our constitution that every 2 years the position chair or vice chair could be taken up by councillors or lay members, but we did amend the constitution because we were struggling. There is a copy, should be with Caroline Gordon, I think, with our amended constitution, so just to let you know.
Thank you for bringing that point up, Councillor Stead, and perhaps we could ask Fraser for some clarification and comment.
No, thanks, Chair, for that. I don't really have anything further to add to Councillor Stitt's comment there, other than thank you for raising it, and we'll ensure that in future the reports align with the kind of constitution of outside body going forward.
Any other questions or comments from members? Or amendments? No? Everybody satisfied? Agreed? In that case, approved. Thank you. We'll move on then to recommendations. 1, advise of any amendment to the current appointment to the Dalbeattie Day Centre as detailed at 4.7. Advise of any amendment to the current appointment to the Dalbeattie Community Initiative as detailed at 4.8. Advise of any amendments to the current appointments to the Stewartry Educational Trust as detailed at 4.9. Advise of any amendments to the current appointments to the Stewartry Sports Council as detailed at 4.10. And note the update on the mill on the fleet as detailed at 4.11. And note that this outside body will be removed from the council scheme of representation outside bodies. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you, Fraser. He's away. Item 17, any other business deemed urgent by the chair due to the need for a decision. I have no further business, so that concludes the meeting. Could I thank you all for your contributions? Our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, the 19th of November, 2025. I know that this has been a long meeting today. I really appreciate your time and contribution from all members. Safe journey home, take care, and see you all soon. And there is lunch, I believe. Is lunch, Ingrid, coming? It
Thanks,
is.
Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.